What's up? It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit since I've sat down here and chatted a little bit. I just had a great weekend. I feel like I always say this, but I had a really cool a little vacay up north with my friends. And, I was filming a lot. And by a lot, I mean I wasn't really filming. That was a lie. That was a lie. No, I didn't really film a ton. I kind of had this like overwhelming feeling of like not wanting to film and like feeling like anytime I was filming, it was just for the purpose of this and not for the purpose of like enjoying the vacation or the boys trip or whatever you want to call it. And it got to a point, or I got to a point in my head where I was just doing it to do it, and it felt so like ungenuine. And although maybe some of the stuff that I recorded was funny and cool and whatever, I just had this feeling in my head. I just wanted to live in the present instead of filming to film. And that's the topic of today's video, actually. So, the importance of being in the present. And this is going to be a little bit of a different video when I'm talking about stuff. When I chose to give advice or maybe talk about experiences and what I've learned and et cetera, there's always been like some sort of like growth arc, I guess, that I've experienced and that I can kind of like push on to the viewers or whatever, or anybody who can relate. This is something that I've actually not really struggled with ever. And so it'll be kind of interesting to talk about. But I've never really struggled with the idea or with the practice of living in the moment, appreciating the moment, living in the presence, and the importance of such. I feel very lucky that I don't have a mind that necessarily wanders into the past or is anxious or worried about the future too much. I think those are two things that you definitely have to be mindful of: past mistakes and be mindful about things that are coming in the future. But I really do day to day, I really do live in the present, and I think that that's a really valuable way to live because you can experience life on a higher happiness scale day to day than just living or surviving until the weekend like a lot of people do with like the 9 to 5 work or whatever. I can sit here and genuinely say that when I wake up, I'm happy and excited for what the day has to bring, even though I have a routine. I may not have a lot of free time in my day-to-day life, especially with work and some other projects I'm working on. But I can genuinely say that I'm very happy and grateful, and I can, be mindful of this practice and importance of, living in the present and what that really means. And yeah, that's just kind of the experience I felt. So I was up there, I'm filming bits and pieces of what we were doing, some swimming stuff, some fishing stuff. We like to play video games, so we're playing some of that as well. Just doing up north stuff, and instead of farming content or anything like that, yeah, this is what I'm talking about: being in the, staying in the present, being alive and in the present for every single given moment that life has to offer. In that moment, I chose to put the phone down. I chose to put the phone down and live in the present and enjoy the vacation for what it had to offer. One thing I will say about living in the present is life goes by pretty fast. I don't want to necessarily speak from experience and say that, oh, I'm constantly worried about the past and, what has happened. That's why it's impacting my, decisions of now or the future. But I will say, though, if you're looking in the past, if you're, reminiscing on some high school days, on some, maybe times that, it was a little better than it was now, I think it's really important to just acknowledge it and not live there. So you can acknowledge these good and these bad moments, but by giving them the power or retail space of your mind, it's really not constructive at all. Reliving positive or bad memories is really just going to have you in a mood funk, and at the end of the day is really not good for you. And I guess on the opposite side of the coin there with the future, this one's a little tricky. It's a little bit hard to kind of dissect here because obviously the future is always important, whether the future is, tomorrow, a week from now, a year from now, especially if you're a young man, it's very important that you have goals. And so by looking into the future, it is important because you need to kind of understand the timeline of your goals. Any specific goal that you may have, it needs to have some sort of timeline so that when it's like is achieved when it should have been achieved, etc. But by being anxious or by looking into the future too much, you're not enjoying the day-to-day life as you should be. I know people, I think, when they get stuck into this rat race of life, they may see day-to-day stuff as pretty monotonous, but it's extremely important to be glad and happy and grateful of these monotonous days, or these days that you experience day to day, whether or not, you necessarily enjoy it, but those bits and pieces of, something that may make you smile, whether it's, something as silly as, a coworker saying a funny joke during your break, or, oh, I saw an albino squirrel, or just like something so out there and stupid that, it can really enhance your day-to-day life. Or, maybe I called an old friend that I haven't talked to in a while, and we had a 30-minute conversation on my drive home, or my commute from work to home. I think those are things that you really can't take for granted at all. And utilizing your time in the present to create some sort of non-monotonous day-to-day lifestyle, or maybe not lifestyle, but day-to-day, routine that you may have, especially if you're in the workforce, is definitely going to improve your quality of life. And I'm not trying to be some sort of like alpha or, perfect example, but I will say that I have done many different things to create my day-to-day life, so that I have things to look forward to, even though I may have to work a 9 to 5, or work late, or work on some projects that aren't necessarily fun. But I do have moments in the day where I'm able to really appreciate and understand that, man, I didn't get a whole Saturday of just doing nothing, or relaxation, but I'm able to really appreciate the day for this day for what it was, and just be extremely grateful, and have these happy, funny moments outweigh the I keep using the word monotonous. It's stuck in my head, but the day to life monotonous tasks of the daily routine. And that's what I'll say about the future. It's obviously very important to pay mind to, but being in the present, and being in the present really is going to make life worth living, I think. And if you're in the workforce, if you're working on projects, I'm just trying to think of it from my perspective, but if you're at work and you're thinking of the past, or you're at work and you're worrying about the future, I mean, really, how much positive work are you even getting done? I mean, when you're at work, you should be present for that, and giving it your all. I mean, anything that you do, you should be giving it your all. And if you're not present in the moment, how are you supposed to do the best that you can? And at the end of the day, I think that giving your all into every single facet of your life, not even work related, but any small goals you have, any passions, I mean, it's extremely important to make sure that it's, all gas, no brakes on every single facet of that. At the end of the day, even if you didn't have a good day, you could be, content in your heart that, when you're laying in your bed trying to fall asleep, you're like, man, I put my all into waking up, my routine, my job, my goals, my project, whatever. Because at the end of the day, you probably have, 16 hours of day. And, if you're not going all in on all of those, I mean, you can't really be content with your life. That's what I would say, is that, being in the present for all of those different things are going to just definitely really increase your quality of life. And I've experienced that, and I'm learning, and I'm still doing it, but I would agree that I'm a fairly happy individual because of my mindset on staying in the present, and the importance of being present in the now. That's also where change happens. That's where action happens. By having your mind float in the past or the future, action won't happen. That's how this YouTube channel started, was the being present in the moment and being able to act now. So yeah, that was a little bit of a ramble. I think it was a little bit all over the place, but highly would recommend this strategy for anyone who's maybe dealing with, what is life after high school? What is life after college? You have a lot more life to live, and just making sure that you're present in the moment, you can seize so many different opportunities that, maybe you would have missed if you were reminiscing in the past or being anxious of the future. Here's a little montage of what I did this weekend. It's going to be about a bunch of random stuff, but yeah, man, 612 Unscripted. If you guys enjoyed this video related, you know, I'd really appreciate it if you guys could like, comment, subscribe. It means the world to me. But also, I'd love to hear your perspective. You know, what are your, you know, did you ever have issues with reminiscing in the past or being anxious of the future? What are some action steps that you guys are doing to stay in the present, and do you even think that it's important to stay in the present? Stay tuned for this little montage. 612 Unscripted. Thank you.
We've got a frozen roast beef and cheddar. Smells like month-old beef.
But if you want all the deets on the weekends,
Prime.
Yeah, I got mine.
You serious? No way.